Deputy Fitzmaurice.
Thanks, Chair, and look at both of you. Thanks for coming in. And I met Francie before, but to Dennis, the best of luck to you. Right, there's a few things that you talked about there. I think that we need to be honest with you on the planning part to it and the objections that's going on at the moment. The problem is that every council has a little document sent by the Department of Housing, and bear in mind one thing. Jackie and Tim and myself and Paul went out to Brussels and we went into the Commissioner. To be quite frank about it, our biggest problem is that it's environment that's looking after it. In fairness to Minister McConnell, while we give out about it, it's actually Minister Ryan and Malcolm Noonan that has to fight a battle for us as well. And I'd worry a bit about that battle, to be quite frank about it, because you need every soldier going the one way to win the war. But in the line of the planning, first of all, and there's no point in codding you because I've gone through this all my life. There's a document there within in every council of a guideline that's sent out that if anyone is within 15 kilometres of a designated site, you can, now sometimes they might screen it or bring it down to 12 or 10 or 5. But this is what's catching us, is the Habitats Directive around the country that Ireland has in there and the interpretation of it. So until that's changed at ministerial level in Europe with an amendment to it, no more than the people in Lough Finchera, that their houses are going to get flooded, but funnily enough they say, see, this dying is more important than a person getting drowned. And until that's changed, guys, we have the gate left open to put it honestly to you, for someone to be able to object. And everyone has a right, you know, we can give out about someone objecting, but the problem is, we have the stuff set that's leaving we have the credentials set of what we're doing. So I think we need to be honest with you on that. The second thing I want to be honest with you on is Jackie and Paul and myself, as I said, and Tim Lumber went over, and we met the Commissioner. And the Commissioner had as much say nearly, I'd say, as me or Tim or any of us had, for the simple reason, there was a legal person here, and there was some other one there, I don't know, an advisor or whatever they were. And we basically sent the bomb over to them for them to explode it. That's what we done, because at the end of the day, when the report was sent over, it's on legislation, and the die was cast in. Let's be honest, and there's no point in we cotton farmers, and unless we get to the root here with collaboration between the EPA, Teagasc, I think it was Francie that said it earlier, EPA, Teagasc, and government help on it. I think down where Tim is, you done a research thing with Teagasc and it worked out well. And until we do that, because from my understanding, there's like 4 different jumps you have to jump in this. And if you go down on one of them, generally if you're doing your leaving cert, and you got 3 out of 4 questions right, you got 75%, and that was still a pass. But in this, if you go down on one, game over. Yeah. So these are some of the things that needs to be changed. On top of that, in the line of what they said to us, I mean, like you as well hear this straight out. CAP was starting to be negotiated, and they said straight out to us that day that they believe it will go more environmental. And that day, they said to us, because a bit of ding-dong went on with Twitters and all of that crack during that time about this derogation. But it was gone. The 250 to 220 was gone because we had to send the stuff over to do it. And the intention, in my opinion, that if we send anything back again that's anyways doubtful, they will love it, because the mood over there was more environmental, and we were also told, and any of the guys will tell you, that other countries were going down or losing it. So look at now, you know yourself, guys, others won't like Ireland with a competitive advantage. But they didn't realise that we were an island and the rest is within a mainstream Europe, that it costs more to get things on. So I think you should know that Timoleague in Norwich, that the research was done. The storage should be the storage for all farmers at the moment, if we're worried about the environment, it should be a no-brainer that we give the Thames, right? We agree with that. In the line of AD, I am sick. I've done a fair bit of looking at AD. I'm sick of hearing politicians talking about AD is going to solve everything. AD will solve nothing and never happen until we give a 9, 11 or a 13 cents feed-in tariff, because it costs 20 million to build it. And if you want to go down the road, Dennis, you were talking earlier that you're out the same. There is a system that you can dry it, but it costs a lot of money and a lot of energy. So either we're going to decide that and put the funding into it. We keep talking about it, no more than offshore wind, and it's like sort of something we're dreaming about. And until we do that, you won't see AD popping up everywhere, because 20 million doesn't come round the bend at any stage. In the line of the likes, and this is another problem coming down the line. We need to realise that a lot of people don't milk cows, but this is going to affect them, because at the moment the plan is that 500,000 hectares, like we still have only 4 point whatever million hectares of land. We're not going to make any more. We'll hardly go out to the sea. And we have 500,000 hectares proposed for forestry between now and 2050. So that's 1.25 million old gone, right? If these dreams that they have come true. We have, on the nature restoration law, even if we look at it at best, 70, 80, 100,000 hectares, right? In solar farms, and if the derogation kicks in, we are in real trouble in food production, and the tillage people have to survive as well. We are in real trouble in food production. And I'll be honest with you, I hope that there's a huge change in Europe in the European elections, because if we don't get different ministers, and as I say, I'm not actually blaming the Minister for Agriculture on this. It's whoever is environment or housing that goes over and puts that forward. It's an awful awkward way, because it's affecting farmers, but it's environment that's looking after it. And you haven't the input that you want into it. My questions would be, so this committee will do a report, and to be honest about it, I cannot see much dissent in voices about ways of resolving the issue to be supportive of it, I think. Now, they might put it in a BNO report, because we've no legal basis that they have to go by. Let's be honest. But look at it, everyone pushing the one way, you might get the care up the hill. But what I am saying, would you recommend AD say that we'd put in the proper say pay if proper the 9, 11 or 13 cents feed-in tariff? Would you recommend that there's a body set up with farmer organisations, EPA and Chagas to give basically a guideline of how things are, how you be doing things, like was done in Timolee where Tim was on about it. And what other things would you be recommending us to do? Because the problem is, if you're going to build an Islay tank and they announce it in the morning, it'll take them 3 or 4, if they open Thames for it, it'll take 3 or 4 months. It's going to be next winter before you have the tank ready, right, for extra storage. We need time in this, to be quite frank about it. If you're going to try and work different bodies together, you need more time in it. And I have an awful fear and a feeling that if these bureaucrats that we spoke to in Europe get their way, the 220 is gone. That's their, in my thing, being honest, I think that's their plan. So you're as well to hear the thinking that we're hearing in Europe. You probably hear it yourselves when you meet them. So what's your recommendations to us that we would do? Say, if you even had 4 things that you'd ask the commission to do, that's all I want to know.
Okay. Robert.
Yeah, firstly, I welcome Deputy Fitzmaurice's comments and around the derogation. That it's hugely important that we hold that derogation, because it affects farmers in all parts of the country, in every sector. What I will say about the political masters in Europe, the one thing the last month has shown, if they want to do something, they can. They amended their methane targets up to 2040. They got rid of the sustainable use regulation. So they can do it if they want to. So I think it's important. So you said 4 things: to keep the pressure on our political masters in Europe, to keep pressure on our commissioner. The nitrates review in 2022 was a flawed review. We can't go back there again. We need to ensure that when we review the next nitrates action programme, that it's done in a proper way. The second thing, to give us time. The third thing is to give us certainty about where we go 4 or 5 years down the road. You can't expect farmers to plan on a 1 or 2 year target down the road. And the fourth thing is that all farmers are eligible for grant aid to be able to put that slurry storage capacity in place. And as John said earlier on, it's a national asset. And I suppose the one thing I would say about AD, it's not going to solve the problem for us in this nitrates review, because it's not going to be done quick enough. We had to have a proper policy around it 20 years ago. We could possibly say that AD might be part of the answer. But in terms of holding on to this derogation, it's not, because it's not going to happen quick enough. The whole question of AD, forestry, solar, it feeds into, for me, the whole land use area, even around nature restoration and re-wetting. That's probably a bigger debate that we need to have now for the next 5 to 10 years, but it's not going to sort this problem for us. So what's going to sort it for us is that we get delivery on those issues that we have there, and we can demonstrate to the European Union, to a commissioner, that what we're doing is going to deliver a stabilisation or improvement in water quality. And we've got to point out to them the importance of holding on to that derogation, because, as Tig made the point earlier on, it's the one advantage we have over our fellow Europeans in how we produce our food. And I think it's important to say this: we're a food producing nation. That's what we do. That's what we should continue to do. We don't have heavy industry to offset our emissions in terms of how we meet our targets. And we've got to be given credit for that as well. And we produce our food more sustainably than most places on the planet. And if we don't do it here, it's going to be done somewhere else that will do more damage to the planet in terms of emissions. I know we're talking about water quality here, and it's hugely important that we get time for those measures to work.
Mr. Drennan, and then we go to the next speaker. Mr. Drennan.
I have 5 things, maybe, if you'll allow me, not 4. I suppose, first of all, March 2022, the interim review that was agreed, Article 12 of that derogation decision, was an absolute disaster, and allowing, at risk of becoming eutrophic as a terminal condition of the scheme. Like, when you look at, we want to be looking at trends, not snapshots, and for our own department to sign up to something that you compare the water quality in 2021 versus 2022, that's not a trend. That's a snapshot. If you're looking at trends in water quality, you're looking at least 3, 5, 6 years of a trend, and that's what you need to look at. So timing and looking at that sort of thing. Second thing, slurry storage is always an issue, and planning and TAMs need to be sorted out. We're in a complete logjam with both of them, and we've lost 14 months at this point with nothing done, you could say, because of both planning and TAMs. Third thing we need a catchment by catchment assessment of what actually are the problems in each catchment. There's no point in just lumping in that agriculture is 60% of the risk. Every river in the country flows through land, so obviously what happens on the land is a risk, and the land itself is a risk. There's a huge build-up of nitrogen in all land, and it's just a matter of whether a weather event can release that nitrogen, whether it be a drought or a flood. So we need to have a catchment by catchment, looking at what's the problem in the catchment and what's the right measure to fix that, whether that be municipal wastewater, whether it be agriculture, whether it be industry, whether it be septic tanks, whatever it is. Everybody needs their shoulder, as you say yourself, pointing in the right direction and trying to shove the car up the hill, not somebody sitting on the bonnet while you're trying to shove it up it. Fourth thing then, I think, is time, that if we put the right measures in the right place, and the new measures that are coming in, they need time to work. I mean, there is a lag time. If you look at the agricultural catchments programme, they'll tell you that when you put in a measure, there's anywhere between a 6-month lag and a 6-year lag in a measure actually showing an effect, because obviously the measure that you take is going to take time to filter through the system. The fifth thing I'd say is what we need is to eliminate a lot of the bureaucracy that's involved in agriculture. I mean, we've gone from a stage that 20 years ago your Teagasc advisor was actually an advisor, not a bureaucrat that was filling out forms for you. And that's the way it's gone. If you want advice on fertiliser or slurry application or how to implement your nutrient management plan, your advisor is tied up with derogation for the first 2 months of the year. He's tied up for the next 3 months with BIS applications and CRIS applications, and then he's looking at there's probably an acres opening date or a tranche of TAMs coming up. So what we need is both the ASAP programme and the Agricultural Catchments programme are giving us the tools and the way forward as regards how to improve water quality, but that advice needs to be disseminated to farmers as what's the best thing to do and the right thing to do in the right place. Start delivering results, and then what we need is the farmer needs to be rewarded for those results. It can't be a heads I lose, tails you win scenario, and that's what's happening at the moment. As I said, you take the ASAP areas where ASAP has worked and water quality has improved, yet what has happened to those farmers, they've still been clobbered with a cut, even though they've done what they're asked to do, have worked collaboratively together to improve water quality, and their derogation is still cut.
Okay.